Mr. President, fellow Rotarians and guests, I'm so pleased to be here today and have the chance to introduce our guest speaker, Dick Herman. His topic today is of great interest to us all, the future of work. He's had a long career in high tech and manufacturing with positions at Xerox, IBM, Carnegie Mellon. He is the president and founder of 101 Manufacturing, an alliance of manufacturing executives throughout the greater Bay Area, which is dedicated to enhancing the competitive posture and economic success of its members. Besides that, he also currently oversees an apprentice program to train technical machinists. He has a BS in economics from Georgia Tech, an MBA from the University of Georgia. He lives here in Petaluma with his wife, Trudy. They have 2 grown children, Nick, who is a founding partner of Ad Hoc Studios in Hollywood, and Natalie is an associated producer at Mills Production in Century City. Finally, he's just a fascinating person, and we're all in for a treat today. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm Rotary Club of Petaluma welcome to Dick Herman.
Well, thank you very much. I guess it says something. Both my kids, as soon as they could, got out of town and went to Southern California. I guess I went a little over the top, but I wanted to get your attention, so hopefully this didn't scare some away. And am I speaking at the right volume? Is this okay? All right, good. So this really started actually in a conversation with my son, who's got an interesting job. Let me tell you just very quickly a little bit about it, and then you might understand my motivation. He was about to get married recently, and you know, as a father and son do, you're sort of walking in the woods, talking, and just curious what's going on in his life. And I don't know how it got around to that, but you know, a young 30-year-old, really nice young man. And I said, son, what worries you? And, you know, I was prepared for anything, right? I mean, there's a lot of things to worry about. You know, I'm starting a new film studio, you know, all kinds of things. Well, what he said really surprised me. He and I have long conversations about technology from time to time. We're both, you know, tech geeks. And he said, Dad, he looked at me, seriously, and he looked at me and he said, when the singularity happens, you know, what then? There's nothing left. Now, that's a pretty big departure, and so before we go any further, do you folks know have you ever heard that term? Can I say a show of hands? So I think it's appropriate, as you'll see it, I hope. The singularity is about the future, and you know, you've seen the Terminator movies, which is why I put the picture up, and you've seen, I think it was called Centennial Man, remember that? You know, people have these crazy ideas about the future. And so I thought, well, that's a good place to start, because I'll bring it back from that to maybe what's a little more realistic. So today I want to talk about the future of work, and I want to talk about the kinds of questions that we might have. Can you read this, or do I need to read them to you? You can read this, okay. You've got better eyes than I do, because I couldn't. But I wanted to try to address some of the questions that you might have, and I guess the place to start is, what the heck is a singularity? I'm going to work back from that. How many of you have heard the term artificial intelligence? Okay, great. So the singularity is the point. It's really the end state of artificial intelligence. Basically, the robots, the machine intelligences, get so advanced and so developed that the machines start building machines, right? And eventually it gets to the point where the acceleration of their knowledge and their capabilities grows exponentially. And why that's important is eventually, with a human intelligence, we're not going to be able to understand what they're doing. Okay? It's kind of like comparing my brain and my capacity to that of an ant. Literally, futurists look that far out, and that's what this thing called the singularity is. Now, before you all, go running out the door, these same scientists were asked, well, okay, when do you think that's going to happen? And they narrowed down the question. It's like, how many of you think it's going to happen in the next 10 years? Virtually nobody, okay? Despite Hollywood, right? How many of you think it might happen in 25 years? Again, not too many. How many of you think it'll happen sometime after 25? A lot of hands went up, right? Okay, very important. Because 25 years, I hope I'm around that long, but I know my kids will be, right? Okay. So, but a fair number also, about 1 in 4, said it's never going to happen. I don't want to go off on a tangent because this is really about work, but I want to set that as a backdrop. Now what I want to do is take you to where we are today, and some of this I hope will be familiar, but perhaps some will not. The state of the art today is something called machine learning. Okay? You probably have also heard the terminology deep learning. You've heard about IBM's Deep Blue, Google Siri, and Google Alexa, Siri, so on and so forth. There's even a little bit on your phone, right, in your modern phone. Well, what is this level of deep learning, what is it good at? Okay? It's actually a surprising number of things. Character recognition. You can write something in script, and I'm sure you've seen it, and somehow the computer is able to read it. Okay, that's amazing if you think about it. You can, as a matter of fact, you can put it upside down and give it to the computer, and the computer can still read it using this technology. Image recognition. The stuff you see in the movies is a little far out there. It is true, for example, in London that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of cameras, and they're watching everything all the time, and yes, there is facial recognition and that kind of thing. Again, it's this technology that enables that, okay? It also does some other interesting things. You've heard about the computer that won Go and chess and Jeopardy and those kinds of things. But here's what's really, really interesting to me. This technology, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars and has been built over the last decade, is coming down, kind of like Excel did. It's coming down, it's being commercialized. Some of it's being commercialized so that the average person like you or me, if you're relatively handy with a computer and have enough money to have enough memory, can start building some applications that aren't too far apart from this. And that's when technology starts to take off. Okay, so that's kind of the background. So let's see if I can get. And again, that's just a picture. I guess one thing I do want to say: computers process pictures, but everything that happens in the computer, and I apologize if this is dead obvious. Everything in the computer is zeros and ones, lots of them. Okay, so you see pictures like this. This is a Tesla car. That car isn't always in that position, is it? It could be, going up, shooting from top of it, whatever. But this technology, all right, is extraordinarily good at that. It's closing the gap on a human. And in bad weather conditions and things like that, it may even exceed the capability of the human. Okay, so who cares? What do you do with it, right? Well, some of these may be familiar to you. And how many of you have heard the term disruption or disruptive technology? Okay, Clayton Christensen, right? What's a disruptive technology? Anybody? Examples from your own lives of something that's been disruptive. Uber. Airbnb, great one. What else? Amazon, absolutely, right? There's actually hundreds and hundreds of them. Those are some of the better known. And why is it called disruptive? Absolutely. It changes who the dominant firms are. It changes, and oftentimes, how we deliver or when we deliver or why we deliver, the ultimate end user service, okay? Hopefully it improves the service. But it also disrupts what else? If you're a San Francisco taxi driver, yeah, okay. So the disruptive nature is it's a little bit chaotic. And by the way, I've shown several pictures here. Here's a factory warehouse worker. That's a college professor. Okay, anyone in the academic career path? Okay. You're going to see simply remarkable things happening there, okay? It's possible for free. For me, I'm a physics nut. It's possible for me to go and see the top physicists of the world, you know, when they're doing lectures at Stanford or Harvard, for free. I mean, for free, right? Okay. How am I doing on time? Okay. So there's a lot of this disruption going on out there. And if you're a business, you know, it depends a lot on which side of that disruption you're on, right? If you're the disruptor or if you're the disruptee, right? And the beauty about our free market society is, you know, everybody's free to try a better idea. This isn't old. This idea of disruption isn't old. This is a picture of Henry Ford II, and this was a fellow by the name of Walter Reuther, okay? Henry Ford, Ford Motor, Walter Reuther, UAW. The story's been told. It's a bit of a myth, but it's still a good story. 1954, that's the year I was born. They're in a factory. They're touring a factory in Cleveland, Ohio, the new Ford factory. And Henry leans over to Walter and says, "Hey, Walter, how are you going to get all those robots to pay union dues?" Walter thinks about it for a minute, leans back over to Henry and says, "Henry, how are you going to get all those robots to buy your cars?" So there's a mirror image, right? The distortion, the services, all the good. There's some things we do have to worry about, which is what's going to happen if labor, if my job is displaced tomorrow, right? Not the end of the world, but this has been going on a while. So this brings me to kind of the backdrop. How many of you have read either of these books? Anybody? Okay, good. So there's a debate going on, right, in our country, right? I mean, you'd have to have been under a rock not to hear about what's the debate about. Income inequality, the privileged wealthy few, the 1%, it goes on and on and on, right? And it's a big debate. I never thought, seriously, honestly, I never thought that I would ever hear national political figures running on platforms that are overtly socialist, okay? It's a free country, you can advocate for any idea you want, but that was a wake-up call to me. It's like, okay, this is serious, and people are scrounging around looking for ideas. How do we fix this? This is how big this disruption is. Okay, this is how big this is. This is how worried some people are about it. Okay, so it's not something that we can go to sleep and it'll go away. It's with us. So I guess that sort of brings me to some initial assumptions, or I call them conclusions. Conclusions is a pretty strong word, but I wanted to wrap it up. There was a massive study done by the big brains at McKinsey. It was finished up last year, where they studied the future of work. And they said, well, let's look at it by occupation, let's look at it by country, and so on and so forth. I'm going to read this to you because I think it sets us up for the last couple things I want to talk about. So let me start out. Our research suggests that as many as 45%, almost half, of the activities individuals are paid to perform can be automated by adapting currently demonstrated technologies. Almost half with the current technologies we have now. Okay? In the US, these activities represent about 2 trillion, that's with a T, in payrolls, okay, wages. Although we often think of automation primarily affecting low-skilled low-wage roles, we discovered that even in the highest paid occupations in the economy, such as financial managers, physicians, senior executives, even CEOs, have a significant amount of activity that can be automated. Now think about that. Is that good or bad? A lot of it's good, sure, yeah. Okay, absolutely. Depends on which side of the. If you're an X-ray technician, and you have a very I showed you the image categorization and recognition tools. If you're an X-ray technician and you got to stare at, I don't know how they do it, frankly, but if you got to stare at these things all day, and now you have a machine that can maybe pre-scan them, you're probably still going to scan them, right? But you have a machine that can help you. That's probably a really good thing. But if you're so much more productive, do you need a lot more X-ray technicians? Maybe not. And I guess it depends on how big the demand grows. The point is, it's something that is endemic. It's everywhere. And here's the difference that I think may interest you. Here's a quick picture. Just, I think rule number one is first visit the truth. Statistics lie. I found this quite interesting. You can get the McKinsey study for yourself and look at it, but I know you can't read this as an eye chart, but the size of the bubble is the amount of time. The top is manufacturing, the bottom is finance and insurance. Okay? I thought the bubbles would be this, we're going to automate everything in manufacturing, right? Machines are going to do everything. Well, guess what? The size of the bubble is the amount of time spent. Look at the automation in finance and insurance. Look at it. Okay? It's huge. The gray is 0%, the pink is 100%. Look, or orange, whatever that is. So what you're looking for is the size of the orange bubbles. Okay? Point is, if you're a CEO, if you're, I'm a company owner, there's many opportunities for this technology. Okay. Wow, from disruption to the Pilgrims. How did I get there? Well, let me see if I can connect the dots for you. How many know the story of the Pilgrims? I mean, everybody knows, right? Do you really? You really know what happened? Seriously. Seriously, because I was looking for this, I had to go back and research it. So again, is it the truth? When the Pilgrims landed and they settled Patuxet, it turned out that Patuxet, that area that they settled, had already been cleared and made ready for farming. Did you know that? It was all ready to go. Sadly, apparently the natives who had lived there died from disease or something. Here's the other thing. The Squanto, the Native American who helped teach them how to plant corn, where to find the beaver, to find the turkey and all of that, really crucial stuff. Get this, he was a slave. He was taken back to England 10 years before, escaped slavery, and made his way back, and still helped the settlers. Can you imagine that? Amazing. Half of them died in the first winter. Half of them died from the fact that they just didn't have the adequate supplies or the protection or whatever. Okay, so a pretty tough situation. The point of this is, maybe you've heard this story, maybe you haven't, and historians love to debate it, but the point of this story is that the original organization of the colony, you were prohibited from owning land or owning any private property. Everything was the common, right? Well, after 2 years, let me read you when Bradford became governor, let me read you his quote, okay? 2 years. That lasted for 2 years. Here's the quote, and this is directly from his history. This community, so far as it was found to breed much confusion and discontent and retard much employment that would have been to their benefit and comfort. What did he do the next year? Anybody? Private property, specialization. There are good farmers, And they're not good farmers. They're good harvesters, they're good hunters, you know, it's specialization. So that's the point. This isn't an isolated incident. 1974, the CIA, one of the observations of North Africa, saw this huge black spot in North Africa, about 400 square miles. Right next to it, right adjoining it, was this lush green field. Okay, 1974. The black spot was you know, the commons. Okay, it's why they call it the tragedy of the commons. It was the commons. The green, anybody? Fenced off and private. Okay, so there's a message there. Specialization. Okay. All right. Anybody know what that is? 1764, James Watt. How many electricians do we have? Everybody know the name Watt, right? Well, 1764, he patented a steam jacket and basically the guts of a compressor. What did he make from that? Ultimately, the steam engine, which turned everything. So if you want a date for when did the Industrial Revolution start, that's a pretty good one, okay? What do you think the kids are learning in school? I'll give you a little hint. What do you think the kids are learning in school when they study the Industrial Revolution? Anybody? Come on. It's a picture. Child labor, you know, the women in the sweatshops and so on and so forth. And to be approved, it was. But do you know what the infant mortality rate was in the 1800s? Anybody want, I'm sorry, 1700s and early 1800s? Anybody? North of 200 and more likely 300 per thousand. You have 10 kids, 6 of them live, you know, okay? After the 1880s, anybody? Mortality rate after 1880? 10%? Any other guesses? Below 10%. Below 10%, okay? Why? Because what this ushered in was heating, right? The group calling themselves the Progressives introduced hygiene. There were pumps to pump fresh water, okay? So all of that. So what happened to the population? Healthier. I'm still having 6 babies, but now, you know, they're not all dying, so what's happening? Yeah, you bet. Okay. So, what was kind of the lesson there? The lesson is that was an enormous. I mean, we went from being sort of the serf farming kind of organization to, you know, industrial and what? Urbanized. A massive change. And yes, there were child workers, but if your choice was to sit around in the dirt or maybe make a little extra money working, it might not have been such a bad choice. I'm not advocating child workers, but you get the idea. So again, mixed bag. Okay. So so a little bit of history, a little bit of looking way out front. So I want to try to wrap this all up. I got about 6 minutes. I want to wrap this all up. What are some lessons that we learned? And this applies to all of us. I'm 65, okay? I reinvent myself. Where's Michael? Where's Rick? Rick knows this. I reinvent myself every, I don't know, it seems like 6 months, okay? And I know many of you do. Specialize. My son, when he told me he wasn't going to college, this is a very successful young man. He just floated a $10 million new studio in Hollywood. It's not easy to do, okay? Very successful young man. When he told me he wasn't going to college, I said, well, son, tell me what you're going to do. And he told me, and I said, I just have one thing to say for you because I don't understand video games or films or any of that stuff. Be the best. Pick one thing and be the best on planet Earth. And he, in fact, is. He does interactive film. He does interactive. It's all real time. You're playing along, you're watching the film, and you make a choice, and it's just seamless. It's the most incredible thing. Amazon and Netflix and all those people are just desperate to get their hands on this stuff. So specialize, be the best, creative and inventive. I don't care what your job is. I got in an Uber. Somebody said Uber. I got in an Uber the other day. The guy had a bottle of water. He had some information about. I was in another city. He had some information, but yeah, he was a travel agent. Okay. You know what? I remember that guy's. In fact, I took that guy's card. Okay, I remember that guy. Math, science, and practical building. Our kids, by the time they're in, gosh, I want to say 6th grade, they just, when we were kids, we had erector sets, and now there's Legos, and we are wired as human beings to want to work with our hands and to make things, and also take them apart. And we're wired that way. Watch very young kids play, okay, and you'll see what I mean. So, I don't care, I go to school twice a week to learn how to build something. I'm 65. I guess my point is, I don't care if you're 19 or if you're, 65 or whatever you are. Build something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a chair. Rick does this beautiful furniture. I don't care what it is, but build something. You're wired that way, and the endorphins that it releases is remarkable. It's just remarkable, okay? But here's another one. Start young. Start them young, okay? You have a grandson or granddaughter, you have a friend, start them young. Learn to code. Don't care what flavor. C, Python, Excel, macro, I don't care. I don't care what it is. Learn to code. Why? 10 years from now, 15 years from now, there's just not going to be, there is no such thing as an engineer today. An engineer who can't code. Okay? There just isn't, if they are, they're not long for the world. Soft skills, coaching, leading, communicating, just in time, distance, lifelong learning. Okay? 10 years ago, I had the very good fortune, 10 years ago, to have a learning experience with the Chamber's leadership program. It changed my life. It changed my life, okay? But it never stops. Adapt and embrace the tools. Be the first one on your block. Be the first one. Be the first real estate agent or the first banker or the first financial counselor. Be the first one to take the new technology tool and try it out, break it, learn it, whatever. Be the first one, because that also eventually makes you be the best, the specialized. Okay? All right. Time. Okay. People always ask me, okay, great, I get all that. Where are the future opportunities? Here's the big kicker. They're the same opportunities that existed 200 years ago. They are. They look different, but they're the same opportunities. It's kind of like a Maslow's the Maslow's hierarchy triangle thing, right? Huge opportunities in security, safety, okay, health care, health and wellness. Huge opportunities in that. Technology is like an ocean wave washing through that. Okay, that's the only, frankly, what is it we spend now? 30% of the nation's income on all health-related things? The only way to bend that cost curve is technology. It's the only way. That and consumer choice. Food, clean, abundant, healthy food, water, air, energy, shelter. Okay? Some of you are builders. Yeah? All right, well, it's all about sustainability now. Why? It's profitability. It's profitable to do so. Transportation, communication. Technologies are, read the news. Technology is our friend and our enemy there. This technology thing, we've got to manage it, or it's going to manage us. You don't need to fear a robot, okay? You do not need to fear a robot. What you need to fear is what that robot's planned goals are and how it executes them. Okay? That's what you need to fear. Leisure entertainment, huge, huge, huge market. Okay, so I want to wrap this whole thing up with, what do? I run an apprenticeship program that teaches young men and women to be machinists. And it's a great example. It's one example. I'm not, again, tell the truth. Most of us, I think, kind of know what a machinist is. There's a picture of one. You've got to have great eyes, you've got to have fine motor skills, you've got to have really super good attention to detail. But, and it takes 5, 10 years to really get good at it. And your knowledge is really the knowledge of what I call the knowledge of the tribe. How did I learn to be a great machinist? Because he was a great machinist before me and he taught me everything he knew. Okay? Well, that world, it just can't scale. It's what I call one for one. I'm a great machinist and that's great, but there's only one of me. Okay? How do I scale? I got to hire more people. What we do today is we create CNC programmer machinists. What are they? They use programming skills and they use the computer, and their knowledge is, guess what? It's infinite. Why? It's in the cloud. It's 4,000 tool and die makers or 5,000 machinists over here, all collaborating. Somebody solved, guess what? Somebody solved the problem I'm having right now somewhere, somehow, okay? And I can put, in real time, I can put my hands on that solution. It scales, okay? I've seen one good machinist who's good at this. I've seen that person run a bank of machines as long as this wall here, and they're all grinding out parts, expensive parts that cost several $100s a piece, parts that are holding tolerance of a micron. You know what a micron is? 1/1,000,000th of a meter. A micron is 0.00002 inches. Okay, all right. Human eye can't. You're not going to handle that with no matter how good you are. And it's flexible. This is cool. Today I'm doing CNC machining. Tomorrow I'm probably going to do an additive manufacturing and 3D printing. Guess what? Same skills. Okay? All right, so wrap it up. Proof's in the pudding. One more thing. There we go. I'm the guy that manages this, and this just blew my mind. Every so many years, I do a wage survey because the apprenticeship program that I run has to make sure that if you're in good standing in this program, as you go on, your wages increase. Look at the wage scale difference. This is what they were making 2.5 years ago. This is the new wage schedule that I'm announcing May 1. This is the change. The machinist, it's darn decent, 16%. But look at the CNC machinist programmer. How many of you have gotten a 32% raise in the last 2 years? Let me see you show of hands. Okay, all right. So that's a wrap up. I know I'm slightly over time. You're welcome to say if there are any quick questions, and then I have to give it back to the president before you give me the hook. Yes.
That people that do well are the ones that have the soft skills. We notice how CEOs move around industries. You didn't seem to emphasize that, but I just noticed that people that do well have to have the soft skills to rise.
Absolutely. It's all about getting along with people. Although I will say there are niche jobs that, you can sit in front of a computer all day. Right. Okay? Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you, Dick. That was great. And I also want to say, especially, here's a person who we talk about, we do service, and he does also, in terms of education, especially for our youth. He's there. I'd like to give you a speaker for the speaker, a Bluetooth speaker. I'm sure you've got a dozen at home, but thank you for the presentation. You're in. So, in closing, what we've got is the next couple days, getting ready for the Miracle League. Sunday, the Miracle League is here. We've been waiting for this for years. It's going to happen. Next week on Thursday, if you haven't already, remember to sign up with Gail for the SCARF meeting. Other than that, hey, maybe between now and the 15th, pay your taxes. Other than that, have a great day. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye for now.